All right. Well, thank you for coming to my webinar. The intention of this webinar is to help take the stress out of your finances. Um, so we're really working on helping you get to a point where you're comfortable and confident in being able to handle your finances. So I am just kind of going to jump into the presentation here. Let me share my screen there. All right, and we'll get this into a slideshow. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is we're talking about taking the stress out of your finances. What is the opposite of stress? All right, so we're talking about what is the opposite of stress. We're talking about taking our stress out of our finances. Um, So if you take a minute, just think about to you, what is something that is opposite of stress? There could be a lot of different options here. Comfort might come to mind, but hi, we're talking about stress. And what's the opposite of stress to you? And you can take a minute to think about it. You can put it in the chat. You could also just answer it. I don't care if you want to just think about it. But for me, the opposite of stress, of course, probably because the name of this webinar is resilience, right? But to me, resilience is the opposite of stress, being able to handle things that come up when they come up. So yeah, that's what this is about, financial resilience, how to thrive in an uncertain economic climate. So we're not talking about just surviving. We're talking about surviving and being able to still um, not have stress from it. I'm DL. I'm a financial coach. I started a business called Reclaim Your Wallet. I am a certified financial counselor. This is my passion. This is the thing I've been wanting to do for a really long time. So I'm really excited to get this started and to be kind of sharing a little bit about this subject. Um, all right, so let's kind of just dig in. So resilience. Stress. So resilience to me, I define it as the opposite of stress. But when you think about resilience, what do you think about? What comes to mind when you think about resilience? Just kind of think about that for a little bit. I define resilience as the ability to handle tough situations without feeling defeated, or without feeling stress. So, kind of what does this look like? This is a good quote. My husband actually came up with this quote. It's a Rocky quote. Rocky said, "Nobody's going to hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." And that's kind of true because, you know, stress or the absence of stress isn't the absence of conflict. It's single parent. Yes, very much so. Sorry, I just saw that chat. I was a little delayed. Yes, that is true. uh, yeah, so then we're going to talk. So resilience is being able to handle everything that comes at you. So financial resilience, then, if you can put that together, is financial resilience, right? It's the ability to withstand financial events that happen without getting knocked down or without giving up. So things like a job loss, an emergency, a major life event, or anything unexpected, even expected things like retirement. Um, Resilience is being able to handle that. And the financial atmosphere does not disrupt your situation. So right now we currently have a very tumultuous economic atmosphere. Things are way too expensive. Wages are way too low. There's talk and rumors of recession. You can't afford a house, right? There's a lot of things in the market right now that the market is throwing at us. And those are all external factors. But when you have financial resilience, those things that keep getting thrown at you don't necessarily keep you down. You can keep going. You have that resilience built up. So how would your financial situation change if you were more resilient? I know I have some areas in my finances personally that definitely need some work. But this is a situation, just think about for a minute, what would your financial situation look like if you had stronger or better resilience, financially speaking? You don't have to share this. You can think about it. All right, there's a chat. You'd be retired. Yeah, but that's the point. That's exactly the point. If you had more resilience, then you could do the things that you want without the situation impacting your goals. That's actually uh, exactly that's a good situation for me. If I were more financially resilient, um, I wouldn't have a car payment. I I am very much passionate about the debt-free life. That's just my personal goal. Doesn't have to be yours. We all have different goals and different dreams and what our life, what we want our life to look like. But mine was buying everything with cash, and I ended up needing to get a car and couldn't pay cash for it. And so, if I was more financially resilient, I would not have a car payment. So, even those of us who it's our profession to help you manage your money, still have to work on it a little bit. All right. So, what are some contributors to financial resilience? What contributes in you being financially resilient? Well, there's a few things. Most of them are financial things, but some of them are mindset. So, the first thing is savings. Savings is a core component. I think personally, it's one of the number one most important part of financial resilience, right? If you have a savings and you lose your job, you're not hosed because you got a savings. You can still afford your necessities. Your credit score, having a decent credit score helps you to build the financial resilience, because when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. In my situation, we needed another car, and I didn't have all of the cash that I wanted to have, but I did have that decent credit score. And so I was able to obtain the things I needed. Even if it wasn't in the way I wanted it to be, I still could do it, right? Okay, so investments, having your investments and having them diversified. This is a big one. And I don't handle investments. I hand you over to someone else when you're ready to deal with that. That's not my forte. But having them and having them diversified can also help you be resilient, because when the stock market crashes, like it does every so often, and you don't have all of your investments in the stocks, you've still got enough comfortable enough nest egg to get you through. Job skills and education contribute to resilience as well, because if you get laid off in your job, or your position gets eliminated, you have job skills and education and experience that you can fall back on. And if you've diversified this as well, you should be able to pivot better than those who haven't prepared in that way. And then this one is having no to low debt. So I am not I personally live the lifestyle. I try to have no debt. Dave Ramsey is a very popular, he calls himself a financial coach, but I kind of disagree with that. Um, he's a financial educator, I think. But he teaches you to have no debt, period, and debt is evil. However, I don't believe that. I believe we all have different goals and we all have different things we want in life. And so having low debt, a debt that you're comfortable with, that you can easily pay back, or that you can easily take care of if situations arise, right? So just whatever meets within your goals and your priorities. And then insurance. Insurance protects you from unwanted events that may happen that you might not have enough savings for. Things like I mean, when we think of insurance, we sometimes think of medical insurance. I think that's probably the most common thing that comes to mind. But other kinds of insurance are like car insurance, right? If you get in a car accident and you don't have insurance, you end up having to pay for all the damages of the other car out of pocket. They could sue you for that. And any medical damages that they have also could sue you for that too. So having insurance protects you there. It protects your money. Um, Other types of insurance are like life insurance. If you unexpectedly pass away, your family members aren't going to be burdened as much by taking care of your final expenses. Just like if you have a family member who unexpectedly passes away and they've had insurance, that insurance helps you be more financially resilient. So we've kind of dived into a little bit about what is financial resilience, that ability to pivot and adapt when life gives you lemons, you can make lemonade out of it. So how do we develop financial resilience? How do we build it? Well, I like to think of it as a process. You can't just get it and you're done. It's a process and you have to practice it over time, all the time. And the first step in the process that I teach is intentionality. When you are making plans or you're making decisions or you're thinking about the future, you're being intentional about it. So if someone asks you saying, why is it important to save? Well, if you don't know why it's important to save, are you really going to be that motivated to save? Right? That's just doing something because you should. It's not really intentional. So intentionality helps you develop that resilience because you're doing it with a purpose, with a vision in mind, and you have a reason for doing it. Practicing over time. So you've got to be intentional. You've got to practice over time. You will not be perfect the first time you try something, and you won't be perfect the 100th time you try something, and you won't be perfect the 1,000th time you try something. And that's why it's important to reflect and then correct yourself. Having this constant cycle of practice and then reflecting and correcting helps you refine your skills over time, and then just keep getting up and keep pushing forward. Like the Rocky quote earlier on, he said that it doesn't matter how much you get hit, it's about how much you get up after you get hit. And that's the same thing as you keep moving forward with it. So let's dive a little bit more into intentionality. And I want to hear a little bit. You can put it in the chats or you can just think about it. What does intentionality look like, or what does it mean? I kind of already talked a little bit about it in the last slide, but what does it look like to you? I think to me, intentionality means having a vision, having a purpose, having a reason for doing something, a reason for your goals. Yeah, purposely, exactly. It's exactly what it means, doing something purposely. Understanding your values is very important to intentionality. And sometimes this particular aspect it gets overlooked a lot when we're making goals. We don't understand why the things that are important to us are important to us. And sometimes we don't always understand exactly what our values are or exactly what is important to us. But when you are making plans and you're planning ahead for things, understanding your values helps you be more financially resilient, because when you know whether or not things align with your values, you know whether or not it's a good decision or a decision that's going to make you unhappy in the future. All right, so let's talk about planning ahead. Planning ahead is things like budgeting. Budgeting often gets a bad rap. It often triggers some negative emotions on like, oh, budgeting, I have to slash, I have to restrict myself, I have to cut this out, or I have to limit myself to only $10 on this thing. I don't view budgeting as restrictive. In fact, I view it as liberating. Budgeting is just making a plan for your money. So this is the way that you can prevent your money from spending you. If you ever have that issue, and I know that if I don't budget, if I ever go a paycheck without budgeting, my money spends me. It just happens. That's my habits, and that's just how I work. So I need to budget, because if I am intentional and I decide that I want to save, I want to put, $500 in savings this month. Well, how do I ensure that I actually do that? By budgeting. Also, if I say I want to be able to play with my friends today, then, or I have to budget for that. Budgeting, you don't just budget for the boring stuff, you budget for the fun stuff too. And one thing I always do with my clients is I make sure that they have some play money in their budget so that they can enjoy their lifestyle. But that, again, is part of planning ahead and being resilient, is making a plan for your money. Building that savings, working on building it is very, very important to resilience, because like I mentioned earlier, that is the most important, I feel like that having a savings is the most important aspect, or most important contributor to resilience. If you have that savings to fall back on, things don't hit you as hard. Paying off debt. And this could look differently for everyone. Some of us are very comfortable having low balances on our credit cards that we pay off every month. Some of us are comfortable having a very small car payment that, doesn't take up much of our income. Some of us are very uncomfortable with having any debt at all. So whatever your level of comfort is, make sure that you keep your debt to a very minimal, very healthy level, so that if you do fall on hard times, can you still pay those responsibilities? I personally prefer none, because not having any debt is much better. But again, it's about your level of comfort and what you value. Insurance, we've kind of already talked about. Planning that insurance ahead, though, helps it so that when the event happens, you're not scrambling. It's already there and it's already in place and you're already ready to go. And then developing healthy habits. This is actually more of a mindset, behavioral part of financial wellness. But financial wellness and financial resilience require healthy habits, require healthy mindsets. And it's more about your behavior than it is with money. You don't have to have a finance degree. You don't have to be good with numbers to be good with money. You just have to be good with your habits and with your mindsets about money. And when you're developing resilience, you're developing those habits. I actually had an epiphany the other day. I was at the swimming pool with my family, and I was scared to go off the diving board because I just have this thing about diving boards and heights. And I thought, well, this is a scary thing, but I'm just going to do the thing anyway. And I did it. And I had this epiphany that that's kind of the same concept in developing resilience. Is you do the hard thing in one area and you get practice doing it there. And then when you have another scenario come up, you're like, oh, well, I've done hard things before. I can do them here too. And so anyway, I went off the diving board, and it was good. It was fine. And I actually ended up doing it again. And the more I did it, the less scary it was. And that's kind of how resilience is. So practicing over time. I did mention that don't expect it to be perfect on your first try. Don't expect to start out and say, oh man, I just did my first budget and I totally blew it my first day in, and I totally forgot that I had even budgeted. That's fine. And that's normal. Getting up after that and correcting it is what should be done, but do not beat yourself up trying to be perfect on the first try. Lance Armstrong, for example, wasn't an athlete level bike rider, Olympian guy the first time he jumped on a bike. I'm sure that he fell down a lot, and I'm sure he had to learn how to maneuver that bike and how to ride it. But over time, he became the athlete that he was because he practiced at it and he corrected and he did the evaluation and said, hey, what can I do to get better? What can I do to improve? And when he fell down, he didn't just give up and say, well, that's it, I'm done, I guess I might as well go home. he got back up on the bike and he kept going and kept finding ways to improve. The part here that's really important to understand is just be patient and trust the process. You might not see it now, but you are developing and you are growing and you are improving. Even if things are hitting you hard now, if you are practicing and you are reflecting and you're working and you're growing, you will eventually be in a better place than you were when you started. So just be patient, trust the process, and understand that it takes time. I've talked a lot about reflection and correction. Some of the things it looks like to self-reflect is saying, what can I learn from this? What am I doing that is holding me back? And as a financial coach, it's my job to ask you some of these hard and uncomfortable questions that you've got to look and say, what am I doing? It's not always, well, what's the circumstances, right? What does the environment look like? But what am I doing that's holding me back? Sometimes, we are pretty innocent and there's nothing we can do about it, but there's always something that we can learn from it and always something that we can improve. And then ask yourself, what do I need to do to move forward? How can I learn from this? And what step can I take to get me in a better spot than I am right now? Don't let your situation get you down and stop you from improving, but actually take the time to become something greater from the situation that you're currently in. That takes a huge willingness to be wrong and then to do something about it, to fix it and to correct yourself and to move forward. And don't get caught up on sunk costs. Who knows what a sunk cost is? It's a term used a lot in economics. Does anyone know what a sunk cost is? What I'm referring to here? A sunk cost, what I'm referring to, is something that you've already paid for that has no effect on your future. A good example is, let's say you buy some tickets to a concert, and then you get sick and you can't go to that concert anymore. You've already bought the tickets. Nothing can change the fact that you've already bought those tickets. But you think, oh, well, I still need to go to that concert, but you can't because you're puking your guts out. You get so hung up on the fact, oh, I just wasted that money. Well, here's the thing. It actually doesn't affect your financial situation one bit going forward. You've already spent the money. So your future finances are not in any way impacted by that decision you've already made, the money that was already spent. Another good example of getting caught up on sunk costs is when you have, let's say you've had investments that you've put in a portfolio and the stock market is crashing and the particular stock that you've chosen to invest in is just tanking. But you want to stick it out and you say, no, I want to hold out. I want to hold out because I spent so much time and so much money investing in it. And you could sell it right now and only lose, $100 on it. But you keep waiting and you keep waiting and you keep waiting. And then eventually that company declares bankruptcy and your stocks are worth zero. That sunk cost of, I've invested so much time in this. I've invested so much money in this. If it's a sinking ship, it's a sunk cost. And a lot of times not just in financial situations, it happens a lot where you keep pushing forward. A good example actually is a bad relationship. Who here has been in a bad relationship? Yeah, those are fun, aren't they? So some cost would be, I've already invested so much time in this person. And I know this person doesn't treat me well, and they're not what I'm looking for. And I don't really want to be with this person forever. But I've invested so much time that I don't really think that I want to get out because all of my time and all of my investment would be wasted in this relationship. So applying that to money in this situation, it doesn't affect you going forward. It doesn't help you going forward to be hung up on this sunk cost. You've already spent that. You've already invested that time. You've already done all that stuff. Going forward, all you can do is choose to grow from it or choose to continue sinking. And that's what I mean when I say don't get caught up in sunk costs. It's very, very common thing. That's actually one of the biggest emotional pitfalls that we run into is imagining that we have to stick to it because we put so much. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Just correct it and move forward, and your life will be better for it. Okay, so a couple tips I have here about pushing forward, just continuing to move forward, and keep in mind a couple of things. Don't give in to hysteria of the moment. There's a lot of hysteria that goes on, a lot of you have to do this one thing. The housing market, actually, one of the reasons why it inflated as quickly and as rapidly as it did was because a lot of people were saying, if I don't buy now, I'm going to miss out. It's that FOMO, that fear of missing out. And so they would buy houses online that they had never even set foot into before because they didn't want to miss out on the opportunity to buy that house. And then they get into that house and they realize it looked nothing like it did on the pictures. It was a mess. It was totally wrecked, or the layout wasn't functional, wasn't quite what they were looking for. And so they give into that hysteria, and giving into hysteria, even if it's internal hysteria, even if it's your own, I'm worried that this opportunity is not going to come up again. That's not a rational way to make decisions. And so you just got to look out for that. Stick to your plan. And I'm not saying your plans can't change. Your plans should be evaluated frequently, but stick to your plan. Don't just change it immediately. Give it time to actually work and do the work that's put into it, and then reevaluate it often. Well, is it working for me? What do I need to change about my plan? Like I just said, your budget isn't set in stone. You should adapt it as you adapt, as you grow. Your needs change, your situation changes, your budget will also change. If something isn't working for you, if you're like, you know what, I'm just not giving myself, for my mom, I'm not giving myself enough room for Pepsi in my budget. I budgeted only $10 for Pepsi and I ended up spending 20 or 30 or 50. And this just isn't working for me because I can't give it up. Right. You don't give up the things that are most important to you, that you need to have. For some people, for me, it's pizza. It's ordering pizza, because I get to the point where I get so tired and I don't want to cook, so I order pizza. And the times when I don't budget enough for it, thinking, oh, I just need to cut back on the pizza anyway, I'm just not going to budget for it, and I end up blowing it and spending the money on it. So you should readapt. Yeah, you are guilty of the Pepsi. I know, I use that example just for you. But my point is, you should budget for those things. You realize, my budget's not working in this category. I need this particular thing. So reevaluate, redo your budget, give yourself more room for those values and those things that are important to you, so that you can do them without breaking your budget. You're welcome. So your budget isn't set in stone, and you need to reevaluate often. Oopsies. Okay, and keep refining your skills. Keep looking at these opportunities, or I call them opportunities. They're actually, most people think of them as obstacles or trials, or they suck, right? But if you think of them as opportunities to grow and to refine your skills, and they're learning opportunities, they're changing you into being someone better than you were before. And reach out, ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. And I hate that part of society that tells you that if you have to ask for help, you're weak, because actually asking for help is just you utilizing a tool that you're given to grow and improve. So there's actually a lot of strength in reaching out and asking for help. Sometimes we could all use a little bit of help. I chose this picture because I think it's hilarious and I like it. And I laugh too hard, but it's true. So that's what I'm here for. My job as a financial coach is to help you learn how to implement some of these things. If you're like, well, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to develop resilience, or, this webinar was great and all, but I really don't know how to apply it. That's what I'm here for. I have been trained on this specific thing, on helping you evaluate your situation. I am currently in the process of developing an online course It's in development phase. I'm still building it. It's technology is not my forte and I'm not great at it. So bear with me as I'm building this thing. It's about budgeting. It helps teach you the basics of budgeting. But my one-on-one coaching that I offer is really where we dig deep in, and I help you personally develop a plan to reach your goals and to achieve what you're trying to achieve out of life. It could be, I just really want to learn how to, just put some money aside every month. I don't want anything big. I don't want anything fancy. Some of you might be, I want to get to the point where I have enough money to start investing in my portfolio, and I really want to get there. Some of you might just be like, I just want to just be happy, right? With where I'm at. That's my job, is to help you with that. So with that said, I've been doing a lot of talking. Oh, yep, stay informed. I started a newsletter. It's going to be coming out every month. I'm going to start sending some trends I'm seeing in the news lately, or maybe it's just a couple of tips to help you with anything here. Or I'm also going to be mentioning updates in our business, some exciting updates recently, as there's a project in the works. It involves my car and nice, pretty logos. I'm gonna share that when it actually happens, but I have a cousin in graphic design, and that's all I'm really gonna say. But yeah, so stay informed, and I'm here to help you. So does anyone have any questions about anything that we've talked about that I could help you moving forward, take something away from this webinar and really implement it and move forward with it?